Ah, there you are, the one they tried to split in half, the one they thought they could tear apart from the inside. Welcome back to yourself, or should I say, welcome back to both of yourselves, because something happened that they never saw coming. A coven gathered under a blood moon, didn't they? 13 voices chanting in unison, candles flickering, mirrors cracking, all focused on one single intention: to summon your shadow self and turn it against you. They thought they were so clever, these witches with their ancient books and bitter hearts. They thought they could reach into the darkest corners of your psyche, pull out every suppressed rage, every hidden hunger, every forbidden thought you've ever buried, and weaponize it. They wanted to watch you fight yourself to death. They wanted to see you torn apart by your own demons made flesh. They prepared for months, maybe years, studying your patterns, collecting your hair, your photos, tracing your energy signature like predators stalking prey. But here's what those amateurs didn't understand about shadow work, about the deep magic they were playing with. They didn't realize that you'd already been dancing with your darkness for years. While they were learning spells from Pinterest and TikTok, you were having conversations with your demons at 3 a.m. While they were burning sage and charging crystals, you were sitting in the void, making friends with the parts of yourself that scared everyone else away. They thought your shadow was your enemy, but they didn't know you'd already shaken hands with it in the mirror 1,000 times before. So when they completed their ritual, when they spoke your name backwards 7 times and called forth your shadow self from the depths, something unprecedented happened. Your shadow emerged all right, dark and terrible and magnificent, dripping with all the power you'd kept hidden. It rose from the ceremonial circle like smoke given form, eyes burning with every emotion you'd ever swallowed, hands crackling with every spell you never knew you could cast. The witches smiled, thinking they'd won, waiting for it to turn on you, to hunt you down, to destroy you from within. But then your shadow saw you, really saw you, and instead of attacking, it tilted its head like a wolf recognizing its pack leader. Because here's what those witches didn't account for. You weren't running from your darkness anymore. You'd already done the work they thought would destroy you. Every therapy session where you faced your trauma, every meditation where you didn't flinch from your rage, every journal entry where you wrote the truths that would make others vomit, you were preparing for this moment without even knowing it. Your shadow self stood there in their circle, this beautiful monster they'd summoned to be your executioner, and it started laughing, not at you, but at them, because it recognized something in you that they'd missed entirely. You weren't just another target, another victim of their hex work. You were already whole. You'd already been integrating your shadow for years, meal by meal, breath by breath, breakdown by break. While they thought they were summoning a stranger to fight you, they were actually just calling home a part of you that had been waiting to return. The witches' faces changed then, from triumph to confusion to something resembling fear. Their binding spells started to crack. Their protection circles flickered. Because shadow selves aren't meant to be controlled by external forces when the original soul has already accepted them. It's like trying to turn someone's right hand against their left hand when both hands belong to the same body, the same consciousness, the same sovereign being. Your shadow turned its back on them, walked straight through their barriers like they were made of tissue paper and headed straight for you. They scrambled, these so-called practitioners of the dark arts. They threw every binding spell they knew, every banishment, every containment ritual in their little books. Salt circles, iron chains, names of power they could barely pronounce. But nothing worked. because they'd made a fundamental error in their calculations. They assumed you were weak, fractured, afraid of yourself. They assumed your shadow would find you repulsive, would want to destroy the light version of you. They never considered that maybe, just maybe, you'd already married your darkness in secret ceremonies they could never witness. When your shadow reached you, there was no battle, no struggle, no dramatic confrontation. Just recognition, like looking in a mirror and finally seeing your true face after years of funhouse distortions. Your shadow didn't come to destroy you. It came to complete you. And when it touched you, when it stepped into your skin like coming home after a long journey, something shifted in the very fabric of reality around you. The witches felt it, that surge of power that happens when someone becomes truly whole. You absorbed every gift your shadow brought with it. The ability to see through lies like glass. The power to walk through others' manipulations like cobwebs. The strength that comes from accepting every single part of yourself. Even the parts that society told you to hide, to hate, to amputate. Your shadow brought you its treasures. The rage you'd been taught to suppress, now transformed into fuel. The hunger you'd been shamed for, now revealed as ambition. The darkness you'd been told made you evil, now recognized as the source of your depth, your creativity, your power. The witches tried to run then, but how do you run from someone who's just reclaimed their missing half? How do you hide from someone who can now see in the dark? They found their own spells turning against them, their own shadows growing restless, questioning why they served masters who were still so fragmented, so afraid of their own depth. Because that's what happens when incomplete beings try to weaponize completeness against itself. It backfires spectacularly. Your merged self, this new version that's both light and shadow, both acceptable and forbidden, both angel and demon, stood there radiating a frequency they couldn't match. You didn't need to curse them back. You didn't need revenge. Your very existence became their punishment, because now they had to live knowing they'd accidentally created the very thing they feared most. Someone who couldn't be manipulated through shame, couldn't be controlled through fear, couldn't be destroyed by having their darkness exposed because they wore it like armor. But let's talk about what this merger really gave you, because it wasn't just protection from their pathetic hexes. When your shadow self merged with your conscious self, you gained abilities that most people spend lifetimes trying to develop. You can now read the shadows in others, see what they're hiding, what they're suppressing, what they're afraid to admit even to themselves. It's like having X-ray vision for souls, seeing past the masks, past the personas, straight to the writhing truth beneath. You walk into rooms now and feel the unspoken tensions, the secret hatreds, the hidden desires. People feel exposed around you without knowing why. They start confessing things they've never told anyone, not because you asked, but because your presence pulls truth to the surface like a magnet pulls iron filings. Your shadow self brought you its network, its connections to the spaces between spaces, the moments between moments. You catch glimpses of things before they happen, feel shifts in energy before they manifest, know when someone's lying before they finish their sentence. The dreams changed too, didn't they? No longer are you having nightmares where you're chased by darkness. Now, you're walking through the dreamscape as its sovereign, moving through others' dreams like doorways, leaving impressions, planting seeds, harvesting information from the collective unconscious. Your shadow self was always the part of you that could travel between worlds, and now that ability is yours, conscious and controlled. But perhaps the most powerful gift is this: you no longer fear your own depths. While others are terrified of their anger, you've made it your ally. While others run from their pain, you've transformed it into wisdom. While others hide their hungers, you've turned yours into purposeful action. The witches thought they were summoning your destroyer, but they summoned your teacher, your protector, your missing piece. And now that teacher lives within you, constantly showing you how to transmute poison into medicine, fear into power, trauma into triumph. They're watching you now, those witches. From whatever safe distance they think they've found, they see you moving through the world with a confidence that unsettles them, with a power they can't quantify or counter. They've tried to undo what they did, performed reversal rituals, begged their spirits for help, but you can't unsummon something that was never truly separate. You can't banish someone to their shadow when they've already become one with it. Some of them have tried to approach you, haven't they? With false apologies, with attempts at friendship, trying to get close enough to understand what went wrong, to figure out how to weaponize this information for next time. But your shadow self recognizes them instantly, feels their energy signature like a bad smell, warns you with that little tightening in your gut, that sudden clarity that says enemy pretending to be friend. They can't infiltrate you anymore because you have a guardian that never sleeps, never stops watching, never forgets who tried to destroy you. The younger ones in their coven are starting to ask questions. Why did the ritual fail? Why did it make you stronger instead of destroying you? And the elders don't have answers that make sense, because to explain it would mean admitting that their understanding of shadow work was elementary, that they played with forces they didn't comprehend, that they essentially performed the magical equivalent of trying to kill someone with chemotherapy and accidentally cured their cancer instead. They've become walking cautionary tales in their own communities. Other practitioners whisper about the coven that tried to weaponize someone's shadow and created a merged being instead. Some think it's an urban legend, a story to scare baby witches from playing with magic they don't understand. But those who have seen you, who have felt the dual presence you now carry, they know it's real. They know there's someone walking around out there who survived the unsurvivable, who integrated what should have destroyed them. So how do you live now as this merged being? How do you walk through a world designed for people who hide from their shadows when yours walks beside you, within you, as you? First, you realize that most of society's rules were written by people terrified of their own depths. The social contracts, the politeness, the performance of perpetual positivity, it's all designed to keep shadows buried, to keep people fragmented and therefore controllable. But you can't be controlled anymore because there's no part of you left to manipulate. You find yourself becoming ruthlessly authentic. Not cruel, but incapable of the small lies that grease social wheels. When someone asks how you are, and you're not fine, you don't say fine. When someone tries to guilt you into something, you feel your shadow self laugh at the attempt and you simply say no without justification. You've become allergic to your own dishonesty, and that terrifies people who depend on everyone playing their prescribed roles. Your relationships have transformed or ended. The people who needed you to be half a person, who were comfortable with your light but not your shadow, they've fallen away like dead leaves. So, quiddicha. But others have been drawn to you, people who are also doing their shadow work, who recognize in you what they're trying to achieve in themselves. You've become a lighthouse for those seeking integration, even if they don't fully understand why they're drawn to your frequency. The way you create has changed too, whether it's art, writing, music, or just living. There's a depth now that wasn't there before. Your shadow self brings the raw materials from the unconscious, the uncomfortable truths, the beautiful darkness, and your conscious self shapes them into form. You're creating from a place of wholeness, and it shows. People feel moved by your work in ways they can't explain, disturbed and comforted simultaneously, like looking at a painting that somehow knows their secrets. Your shadow self, now fully integrated, whispers wisdom that your conscious mind would never have accessed alone. It tells you things like, that person's smile is a weapon, step back. Or this opportunity looks golden but tastes like ash, refuse it. It's not paranoid, it's perceptive. It sees the patterns in the darkness that your light-objected eyes would miss. It remembers every red flag you've ever ignored, every intuition you've ever suppressed. And it won't let you make those mistakes again. The shadow wisdom extends beyond just protection. It shows you the hidden paths to your desires. While your conscious mind might see only the front door, your shadow sees the side entrances, the underground tunnels, the ways to move through the world that bypass traditional gatekeepers. It knows that power often moves in darkness, in the spaces between official channels, in the conversations that happen when the cameras are off. And now, you know this too. It's taught you that destruction and creation are the same force viewed from different angles. When you need to end something, a relationship, a job, a pattern, your shadow shows you how to do it cleanly, completely, without the lingering threads that create karma and call you back. When you need to build something, your shadow provides the dark materials, the compost of old experiences, the fertilizer of processed pain that makes new growth possible and robust. Your shadow has also revealed the comedy in horror, the absurdity in what others find frightening. You find yourself laughing at things that make others uncomfortable, seeing the cosmic joke in situations that would have previously devastated you. This isn't callousness, it's perspective. Your shadow has shown you that most of what humans fear is just shadow puppets on the wall, and once you've merged with your own shadow, you can never be fooled by those projections again. They're still watching, you know, the Coven that started this. They can't help themselves. You've become their obsession, their case study, their great failure that might secretly be their great success if they could just understand it. They document your movements, your changes, your growing power. Some of them have notebooks dedicated to you, trying to reverse engineer what happened, trying to figure out if they can replicate it, or more importantly, if they can defend against it. But here's what's really eating at them. They're starting to realize that what happened with you wasn't an accident. It was inevitable. You were always going to integrate your shadow, with or without their interference. They just accelerated a process that was already in motion. They were instruments of your becoming, not its authors. And that realization is dissolving their sense of power, their belief in their own agency. They thought they were the witches in this story, but they were just the catalysts, the chemical agents that triggered a reaction that was always waiting to happen. Some of them have tried to summon other people's shadows since then, hoping to succeed where they failed with you. But it never works the same way twice. Sometimes nothing happens at all. Sometimes the shadow emerges but immediately returns to its owner. Sometimes it creates chaos, but not the controlled chaos they were hoping for. They're learning, slowly and painfully, that shadow work isn't something you do to someone else. It's something each person must do for themselves. and trying to force it from the outside is like trying to make someone else's heart beat by squeezing it with your hands. The smarter ones among them have started to understand that they gave you a gift, not the gift they intended, but a gift nonetheless. They've accelerated your evolution by decades. They've forced a confrontation that you might have avoided forever, and in doing so, they've freed you from limitations you didn't even know you had. Some of them are jealous. They look at their own unintegrated shadows, their own internal wars, and wonder if they have the courage to do what you've done, to welcome home the parts of themselves they've been taught to fear. Here's something they didn't tell you in their panic, something they're only beginning to understand themselves. When a person successfully integrates their shadow self, they don't just gain personal power. They gain access to a vast network of shadows, a collective unconscious that spans across time and space. Your shadow self isn't just yours. It's connected to every shadow that ever was or will be. It's tapped into the dark matter of human consciousness, the 90% of the psychic iceberg that sits below the surface. Through this network, you receive downloads of information, sudden knowings that have no logical source. You'll think of someone moments before they contact you. You'll dream of events before they happen. You'll know things about people that they haven't told anyone, not because you're psychic in the traditional sense, but because your shadow is in communication with theirs, exchanging information in frequencies below conscious awareness. This is why people feel like you can see through them. Because in a way you can. Their shadows are talking to yours, telling secrets their conscious minds don't even know they're keeping. This network also means you're never truly alone. When you need strength, you can draw from the collective shadow, pulling power from the accumulated darkness of all humanity. When you're facing something impossible, you have access to the memories of everyone who's ever faced something similar and survived. It's like having 1 billion consultants who operate below the threshold of consciousness, feeding you strategies, warnings, and solutions that emerge as intuition or sudden inspiration. The witches are beginning to sense this network around you, the way shadows bend in your presence, the way darkness seems to pool around your feet, like loyal dogs. They're realizing that they didn't just merge you with your personal shadow. They accidentally initiated you into an ancient order that predates their little coven by millennia. You've become part of something they study, but don't truly understand, something their books mention, but can't fully explain.